So, you know how my name is Manifestation in Progress? That's because this isn't some polished success story. A lot of the things that I talk about are things that I have gone through 5 years ago. I've already learned from them. I've already seen how it's benefited my life, and I'm trying to share a lot of what I went through back then because it's already well refined in my mind. But today I'm going to share something that I literally just went through the other day. Like, I'm still healing. And I think that we always will continue to heal and continue to evolve. I don't think there's like an optimal version of ourselves that we're trying to get to live for the rest of our life. I think that we are always going to be growing and changing and evolving. And sometimes it can take years, or sometimes I feel like for me, I just wake up one day with a totally different attitude, a totally different knowing. But anyway, so I'm in the process still of going through some things, and I shared something. If you follow me on TikTok, I shared a video the other day of something that was very deeply personal, and I considered a skeleton in my closet. Like, literally, only one other person on this planet knew about that until I posted that video. And it got me thinking, like, I came on social media to be raw, to be honest, to be authentic. And there's something in doing that that is truly healing me too. And it's like, I talked about this in my one of my last videos, but like I just woke up and had no fear, no doubt, no worry. And I'm kind of been like following that momentum. And this week, and I'll tell you guys what happened, but this week, like, I feel like I'm just really, really like in tune with myself, and I'm leveling up and I'm upgrading, and I'm having one of those moments where I just woke up with a totally different mindset. And I feel like it's like every time I try to adopt a new mindset, I have to almost brainwash myself first, and I have to really sit and be patient with myself. And being patient with myself is something that has been my like top motto for the last several years, because I used to be a perfectionist, like a hardcore perfectionist, and growing up with a narcissistic dad and then being in a narcissistic relationship, like constantly walking around on eggshells, always having to look right, do right, act right, sound right, like if you know, you know. So I was really like in a perfectionist state for a while, and I was really trying to, when I got sober, I made the decision to really like let go of that. And that's why I made these social media pages called Manifestation in Progress, because I'm still working on my manifestation and of my dream life and all that. And I just wanted to document my journey in doing so. And sometimes I'll get comments like, nobody's going to watch this. This is boring. Like, the troll comments, whatever. I don't let them get to me. But, at the end of the day, if my video only gets 20 views, like, so what? This is more of a journey for me to look back. And I've already looked back and watched some of my older videos, and it's like, I've already grown so much doing this. So even like, further down the line, maybe my future kids will be able to watch it. Who knows? That's really where I'm at with it. Like, I'm not worried about view count. And also, if you are on my TikTok, I did make a video a couple weeks ago about how like going viral doesn't matter. That's not what we should be focusing on. I'm really, really trying to like push out the message that authenticity is what matters, and really attracting your people. So like quality over quantity. I always say that. But anyway, so I posted a video on TikTok, and I'll briefly explain if you haven't seen it, because I haven't posted it anywhere else yet. But I, it was a video of me doing the dishes, and I explained how it wasn't just me doing the dishes, because I was going through boxes of old dirty dishes that I hid away 4 years ago. And 4 years ago was after my first year, and within my first year of being sober, I moved into my apartment, which I didn't have a dishwasher. And that was the first time I did not have a dishwasher in my life. But long story short, that first year, year and a half, I was put on 6 different medications. So I was more depressed and anxious on top of, going through all this trauma of getting sober and everything and starting a new life, completely, having identity crisis and imposter syndrome, the whole bit. Um, and I was really, really trying to completely change my people, places, and things. So I changed my people, I changed my places. Now I was working on changing my things, and so I thought that switching careers would be beneficial for me. Long story short, that ended up being a really toxic situation. It was out of state, so I was traveling far and paying tolls, and took a big pay cut, and I ended up getting laid off from that job. Um, and then I, started my entrepreneur journey. But once I got laid off, like that first year there, I was depressed to the point where I could not even leave the bedroom. To the point where I was even thinking, why did I get this whole apartment if I'm only using one room? Like, how delusional thinking is that? But, if you've ever been there, like, depression isn't just being sad. Depression is not being able to get out of bed for months and months and months, not being able to get a shower or brush your teeth, let alone do the dishes. And that's actually, part of what contributed to me losing all my teeth and having to get dentures. So the video shows me washing these dishes that I found from 4 years ago. And it was, a really healing moment, because even though I had been gifted dishes like a year or two ago, it still didn't motivate me to take care of, what I had in my closet and everything. And somehow, some way, on my 5 years and 8 months sober day, I took care of those dishes. And something in the middle of doing it just called me to film it. And I told myself, I'll film it, I'll see how it looks, I'll see what kind of video idea I can come up with. But I didn't put too much pressure on myself, because I knew that it was something that was very, very hard for me to even admit to myself, let alone post a video about it. But something came over me and was just like so healing in that moment, that I didn't care what the world thought. And I was like, you know what? You did tell yourself that you were going to be your full, authentic self. That's what you preach. This is the real human life stuff that we go through that doesn't get posted online. Everybody's afraid of how they're going to look. And we've all been accustomed to like things being photoshopped. And now with AI, it's like, oh, is that AI? Nobody knows what's real anymore. And I'm really trying to push that message, because I think that being authentic is so unique and so beautiful, and what makes us really connect with others. I explained in one of my last videos as well, like, I stopped listening to mainstream music. I only listen to independent artists. And when I'm doing my scrolling and finding like-minded people, it might sound bad the way I say it, and I apologize if it comes out wrong, but the people with like 20 million views and or 20 million likes, or like whatever, like, they're not going to notice if I like their video. I'm just another number at that point. Like, there's no connection there. So I really like connecting with people that don't have that many views, or are on their journey starting out and need that, encouragement and support and reason to keep going. That's why in another one of my videos I talk about just being kind. It costs $0 to be kind. So the way I've been thinking about it is like, coming from being so depressed that I couldn't leave the bedroom, couldn't brush my teeth, couldn't shower, couldn't clean, couldn't do the dishes. That problem seemed so massive that everything else felt like impossible. But as you heal, you start getting back into doing little things again. You start being patient and kind to yourself and finding what you need and healing on your own time. And if I can look back over the last 5 years, it's like I had these, what I felt were massive problems and blockages and things I had to get through, like my anxiety, like fear, like doubt, like failure. I've gone through a lot of lessons in the last few years, but I feel like I'm really like conquering them one by one. And so, within the last month or two, I was really conquering that fear of being seen, fear of being authentic, fear of, posting videos online. And now that I'm like passing that test, so to speak, I'm moving on to the next biggest obstacle. And underlying, like, I knew I had those dirty dishes, but I just like swept it under the carpet and I pretended like it wasn't there. I just bought paper products instead, made it easier. And it's really funny how I'm reflecting on, like, if you create your identity from something outside of yourself, God will remove it from you. At the same time, God will remove things that are, you know, privileges, maybe like a dishwasher, to really humble you, to get you to learn these lessons. And it's like when I was first in rehab and learning about, addicts and alcoholics, like there's this common perception that you have to be a homeless man under the bridge to be an alcoholic, to be an addict. You have to be completely broke. You have to be begging on the street. And of course, now we know that addiction doesn't discriminate. Anybody from those people on the street to the richest of people in, you know, high corporate jobs or politicians or whatever, it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter how much money you have. But like with TV and things, if you've never experienced addiction or been around it or learned enough, to know any better, then that's the vision that you have, is that you have to be that homeless man on the street. But a lot of stories are, how in addiction we lose everything. We are broke, and then when we get sober, we clean up our lives, we get jobs, and we have money. But it feels like it was the opposite for me, because in active addiction, I had all of the things that, you would think that you would want. I had a house, I had pets, I had a relationship, I had a really good job. I got a corporate job when I was 19 and very grateful for that. But I was always working two jobs. So I always had, a side job as well. And I kept myself busy, and I was a functioning alcoholic. I mean, I was a workaholic, I was a perfectionist. You know, that's a story for another time, I guess. But once I got sober, that's when I really lost everything, or it felt like that. So I think that I had to be humbled because I was spending money on, random crazy things that I didn't need. I was eating sushi 3 times a week. I was door dashing like every meal. I was spending it on random clothes and home decor and getting drunk and booking random trips for thousands of dollars, like just crazy things. And it's like I really beat myself up for a while because I was like, if I just knew that I should have saved my money, like I wouldn't be going through this situation. But the fact is that God knows what's best for you, and He will give you everything that you need exactly when you need it, even if you don't think that's what you need. Like, I didn't think I needed to be in the parking lot picking up change just to get something to drink one day. Like, I've gotten to a lower point after getting sober when a lot of the common perception, again, is like, oh, you just quit drinking and you're healed and you move on. No, I think, in my experience, just stopping drinking was only the beginning. The hardest part and the hardest healing didn't come till afterwards. When I moved into my apartment, I thought I was only going to be here for 6 months. Like, that was my plan, and God laughed. And I learned that He's refining me and humbling me and teaching me things so I can be appreciative when I get the things that I want. And I'm not going to identify with my car anymore. That was taken away from me. I'm not going to identify with clinging on to being somebody's best friend. That was taken away from me. I wasn't going to make my whole identity about me having a pig, because that's what got me a lot of attention. I started to make that my whole identity. He was taken away. I could keep going, but I hope you get the point here. Like, I can really clearly see how things that I used to just pour myself into and make my whole identity has been taken away. I used to be so cocky, like, I'm 19 years old with a corporate job, like, I'm so cool, I'm so rich, like that somehow makes me better. How delusional thinking is that? When in the reality, I was a depressed, hopeless alcoholic. Like we put on these masks for other people, try to impress other people, and we never really get to sit back and truly decide, hey, who am I? I don't like to put labels and titles on things for that reason. I don't like to be put in a box. I've always been very, very versatile in everything I do. And I'm sure that this video is getting pretty long. I could feel myself kind of just going down a rabbit hole of ranting. But I might make a part 2 to this. But my whole point here is like, trust that your healing process is unique. And even if it takes you 5 years, 4 years, whatever it was, to do dishes, be proud of yourself for the small wins. Because again, if you think about like your biggest problem, if you're constantly, and this was my experience, when I was laid off and I had no way of making income, I wasn't getting another job, like I was feeling all this doubt and fear and panic and worry about like I'm not going to pay my bills. But if I look back, everything's always worked out for me. I'll make another video on that. But when you're using your energy, all of your energy towards one problem, everything else is going to fail. Everything is about balance. And if my biggest problem, like back in 2021, was getting out of bed, I'm not going to be able to go do the dishes. I'm not going to be able to go make money. I'm not going to be able to do everything else I need to do because that's such a huge blockage that I had to get through. And then it develops into deeper things like you're taking care of yourself. You're getting regular showers and good sleep and you work on that, and then bigger problems come up. And we may not even realize that they're blockages until one day you wake up and you go, oh my God, that was a blockage. And then you move on to the next level or whatever you want to call it. And I feel like that's what's happening in my life. And I finally got to take care of all of these other bigger, heavier blockages that I had. And I'm able to move on to the next thing. And just remember that no matter how long it takes you, everything is in divine timing and God's plan. So, if this resonated with you, please hit the like button, subscribe for more. I know I was kind of all over the place today, and I'm going to watch this back and try to maybe come up with a part 2 because I feel a little scatterbrained today. But remember to stay kind to yourself. I love you, and I'm so proud of you. I'll see you in the next one.